of a toque.
Gandalf, forgive me.
Look at me. What did you see? What did Sauron ask?
A microphone, and there was a room covered in Mickey ears, and a giant TV.
Wait,
and
what?
An ugly dog.
He was asking about our podcast?
And it was on fire. It was burning.
That's what you saw.
Yeah.
What did you tell him?
I could hear his voice in my head. He sounded muffled.
Did you tell him about the podcast and the podcast about the ring?
He hurt me. I didn't tell him what he wanted to know.
What did you tell him about Frodo and the ring?
I told him a wizard and a king eat chicken and waffles. Hello, welcome to A Novel Console, your weekly podcast where we talk about books, games, food, and stuff that caught our attention during the week. My name is Chris, and with me is my beautiful wife and co-host, Karradyne.
Karradyne.
What are you doing?
My precious.
This isn't horror month anymore. Horror month was a couple of months ago.
But the thing is that The Lord of the Rings has literally taken over our lives to the point that we forgot that we aren't a Lord of the Rings podcast.
It's been 4 weeks of us doing nothing but Lord of the Rings. Patreon has become Lord of the Rings. Our
Instagram looks like a Lord of the Rings account.
Our Facebook looks like Lord of the Rings. I suffice it to say, I'm ready to get out of Lord of the Rings.
You know, I'm not ready for it to end. This has been really, really fun for me. But at the same time, I'm ready for it to end.
Me too. I have so much stuff that I want to talk about. Like, for example, Hades. I'm on the verge of beating it. So probably by next week, I'll have the review for Hades ready. 8-10 months after it's been released originally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever. But Persona Strikers and PS5. We managed to get our hands on a PS5 with the stimulus and tax returns and everything. The rest of it went to our fucking cars. But shit.
Not just cars, bills in general, because adulthood.
Yeah. But we have so much stuff to talk about. But since this is the end of Middle-earth March, let's jump into it because we have a whole lot of stuff to talk about.
But first, I have to say that we went to Georgia this weekend and I found out that my whole life is a lie.
Right. You've been crying about it ever since you found out.
I
found out on Friday.
I found out Friday night, the day we got there. I found out that my father, who, if you have not listened to the Patreon episode, you might not know, introduced me to Lord of the Rings. I'm pretty sure I explained that in a regular episode too. But he told me he has never read the books. They were published before he was born, and he never read them. He waited, 30-something years for a fucking movie to come out? He never read the books.
Oh, well, but you did. So let's go ahead and get into it. Are you ready for book talk?
No.
This is book talk anyways.
I'm still wallowing in my sadness. This week's book is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. It was published on October 20th, 1955 by Allen and Unwin. We've stuck with the same publisher this whole time. Thus marks the end of the epic Lord of the Rings trilogy. I can't say there was all that much that really took me by surprise in this reread when compared to how much stood out to me in like The Fellowship and The Two Towers rereads. I will say that I'm so glad it's now a pretty popular thing that if you have several characters that a story follows, you jump around frequently to follow all of them as their stories progress rather than separating them. Like how we see Frodo and Sam for about 10 minutes in the movie, then we jump back to Gandalf and Pippin, and then the three amigos, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. Tolkien definitely did not write the books this way. I guess it just didn't really stand out to me until this particular book because we get to the point where Aragorn has reclaimed the throne, everyone rides out to Mordor, they talk with the mouth of Sauron, and the first place my mind goes is, oh, I'm almost done! Nope! We have not done anything with Frodo, Sam, and Gollum yet. I was actually, irrationally frustrated and irritated by this. You could have been giving us mini updates on all of the characters this whole damn time. Come on. Something I really wish Jackson had touched on in the films was yet another thing that I'd completely forgotten from the books. I'm pretty sure we said in another episode that Sam is just pure goodness and was never tempted by the ring. We're idiots. Do not listen to us. We obviously have no fucking idea what we're talking about. I'm just going to read this whole passage to you right now and hope that it gives you the same chills that it gave me. As Sam stood there, even though the ring was not on him but hanging by its chain about his neck, as if he were robed in a huge, distorted shadow of himself, a vast and ominous threat halted upon the walls of Mordor. He felt that he had from now on only two choices: to forbear the ring, though it would torment him, or to claim it and challenge the power that sat in its dark hold beyond the Valley of Shadows. Already the ring tempted him, gnawing at his will and reason. Wild fantasies arose in his mind, and he saw Samwise the Strong, hero of the age, striding with a flaming sword across the darkened land, and armies flocking to his call as he marched to the overthrow of Barad-dûr. And then all the clouds rolled away, and the white sun shone, and at his command, the Vale of Gorgoroth became a garden of flowers and trees, and brought forth fruit. He had only to put on the ring and claim it for his own, and all this could be. In that hour of trial, it was the love of his master that helped most to hold him firm. But also deep down in him lived still unconquered his plain hobbit sense. He knew in the core of his heart that he was not large enough to bear such a burden, even if such visions were not a mere cheat to betray him. The one small garden of a free gardener was all his need and due, not a garden swollen to a realm, his own hands to use, not the hands of others to command. Oh, it's gonna make me cry.
It made me laugh.
You're a terrible person.
He is the flower god coming to turn Mordor into a garden.
He has such a wholesome heart, but then also knows that that's not what would happen. As much as it's like Gandalf says, he would take it with the desire to do good, but through him, it would wield a power too terrible. Oh, God.
You really love this stuff.
Yeah, I fucking love it. So anyway, if that's not the most fucking beautiful thing I've ever read in my life, then I don't know what is. Samwise literally would have taken the ring to turn fucking Gorgoroth into a garden. A garden. I love him so much more now, knowing he was, in fact, tempted by the ring and what he would have done with it. I love him.
I feel like if Luna would have been tempted like that, like Sam, she would have done a garden. She would have created a garden.
Full of pepperoni stems.
Exactly.
And
just pepperonis all over the place.
Squirrels to chase.
And stuff, and French fries.
Yes, lots of French fries.
Lots of French fries.
And there's something else.
Boofs.
Squeaky toys.
There would be no boofs in that
There
land.
would be no boofs.
No boofs.
No sleepy time.
No.
They keep you stay awake all the time.
She would also have a lot of cat toys there.
Yes, lots of cat toys with catnip.
Fucking weird ass dog.
She's very strange.
She's a moron. She is confused.
Very.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, I don't know how the hell I forgot such a beautiful scene. Maybe my younger self wasn't as sentimental. No, I know my younger self was not as sentimental. I've gotten very emotional with age. Another thing that I really wish and have always wished is that Jackson touched on more in the movies that as the king, Aragorn is actually this amazing healer who comes in and actually directly takes part in the care of Éowyn and Faramir and the others that were injured in the battle. But if I remember correctly, there might be a 2-second snippet in that extended scene, but I need to rewatch it.
So, in the Game Boy Advance game of the Two Towers, because I still haven't played the Return of the King on Game Boy Advance, Aragorn does have a healing ability where he can heal himself, but this ability has elf foil. No, king's foil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, king's
It
foil
has
is
the-
talked about a lot.
Yeah, it has the king's foil as its icon. So I'm guessing that has to do with his abilities because the Game Boy Advance games do go into deeper Lord of the Rings lore than the PlayStation games do. I think they actually go into deeper lore than the movie did. For example, in the Game Boy games, they talk about Aragorn's age. In the movie, they don't.
They do in an extended scene.
Not in the
Eowyn
regular.
asks him.
Not in the regular.
Extended. That brought to mind, did you see any of the memes floating around Facebook today
Which ones?
about the uncut Justice League and how Peter Jackson is now said
Oh,
he's thinking
Lord, they're doing the.
releasing the Peter Jackson uncut version
People need to shut
of
up.
the Lord of the Rings that would last for 8.5 days.
People
I
need
would
to
watch
stop.
it.
They need to stop.
I know.
I mean,
I know that's not real.
They did
but
it for Snyder Cut because Justice League was a terrible mess. Lord of the Rings doesn't need the same treatment. So
I would watch it. That would be so
I know
much
you would,
fun.
but no, we don't need it.
I would make you watch it with me. You would do it.
If it has that terrible clip art special effects like they did with that fucking
hush.
fireball from Sauron.
Oh my god. So overall, this book is a perfect conclusion to this beloved series. I'm pretty fucking mad at myself for waiting this long to reread them, and now that I know how good the audiobooks are, I think this will be my yearly reread to replace my Harry Potter yearly reread.
Because we can't do Harry Potter anymore.
I mean, I can do it in secret. I'm just gonna talk about it.
Secretly, she doesn't believe in trans people.
Don't say that! That is not what I'm saying at all. I am just saying, and I know some people don't feel this way. Okay, the majority of people don't feel this way, but Harry Potter means a lot to me, and I honestly believe it is something 100% separated from her at this point. She put it out in the world. It's ours. It's not hers. We grew up with this shit. I literally knew Harry Potter before I knew Frodo. And yeah. Anyway.
The way that I see it is that J.K. Rowling is terrible. She is a crappy person. And Harry Potter is just as crappy. So eventually it was going to come out that she's a shitty person because Harry Potter is so bad.
And let's be real, like we've all already read the books and we probably all have copies of the books, so it's not like we're supporting her anymore. The woman doesn't need support. She's fucking loaded.
That's true. But yeah, Harry Potter's terrible. J.K. Rowling is terrible. What else you want to say about Lord of the Rings Return of the King?
Solid 5 stars.
I don't know why I even asked.
And I will tell all of you this as I told everyone in a group chat I was added to on Instagram this weekend. If you are struggling with reading these books, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you listen to the audiobooks. The narrator, his voice is so clear that I could listen to it at 2.5 times the speed and still understand clearly everything. So it didn't take nearly as long. I mean, the Return of the King audiobook, I think, is like 18 hours long.
I mean, you did...
I read 2 Towers in 2 days.
Didn't you finish this book like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were supposed to record last week, and before that, you had already finished it.
Yep.
But
But
then-
you were taking too long.
Oh, and surprise, surprise, I gave up on the game. Oh my God.
We'll get there in a second.
You... So before we get into there, anything else you want to say so that we can go into this game that I hate and had so much hope for?
Yeah, if you want to read the books, definitely give the audio a try. Obviously, I would give the physical books a try first, but as essentially everyone says, they are difficult to read. You go into it thinking you're going to get the movie, but no, you are getting 1937 English. Like, no, it's kind of hard. It's hard. It took me a month per book to read them the last time I read them. So, yeah. Audio is a savior.
All right, so that's 5 stars for Return of the King. And let's go ahead and go into some games and stuff. So for this week's game, we have The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age. It is a turn-based RPG that was developed by EA Redwood Shores and published by EA Games on November 2nd, 2004 for the GameCube, PS2, and the Xbox. There was also a version for the Game Boy Advance, which, after seeing gameplay, I ordered it, I got it. I didn't play it because I've barely had any time, and all the time that I set aside for gaming was to complete this game, and God. The Game Boy Advance game is basically Fire Emblem with Lord of the Rings characters. It looks really cool, so I'm going to give it a try eventually. Maybe do a review, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll save it for next year's Middle-earth March, and we'll do all the Game Boy Advance games, and then we're not ever going to have another Middle-earth March because we don't have enough books or games.
We could at least dedicate one episode in like the middle of the month, or Tolkien Reading Day week, which was this week. It was the 25th. We could do our Middle-earth March episode that week.
Yeah, we could do whatever we want. It's our podcast. Nobody pays us for it. So.
We're Lord of the Rings content now, forever and ever.
Okay, so in this game, you follow a party that consists of a Gondorian soldier, a Blade of Galadriel, a dwarf, a ranger, a farm girl, and another Rohan soldier on their quest to meet up with the Fellowship to help them destroy the One Ring. The graphics in the game look pretty great. They improved on the graphics from the previous games. Being that this game is an RPG, there are a lot of close-ups into the character models. The team at Redwood did an excellent job in detailing the characters' faces and armor. This also includes the enemies as well. They look grotesque, as they did in the movies. They look terrible, but terrible in a way that they were modeled so good that they actually look terrible because of the details that they put into their ugly shit faces. The animations in the game are pretty fluid. I'm surprised that this game runs at a consistent 30 frames per second with a little bit of slowdown in the overly flashy attacks. The characters do move like they have weight behind their attacks, and their animations all give them their unique personalities apart from the voice acting. Talking about the voice acting, the sound design in the game is pretty good. The music, the attacks, and the orc and enemy noises sound exactly like they did in the movies, but the characters in your party sound like discount versions of the Fellowship. They don't sound terrible. They just don't sound quite right.
Do we know any of the voice actors?
Let me take a look. So I have the list. I pulled it up. We do have two that you're definitely going to recognize. Actually, three you're definitely going to recognize. Let me turn it a bit so you don't see it.
Oh.
First off, we have Ian McKellen as Gandalf.
Well, duh. Sir Ian McKellen.
He actually does a lot of voices for this game. There's a lot of talk in this game. I'll talk about that in a bit. Christopher Lee is in it as Saruman the White, obviously. The rest are Chris Edgerly. He does Aragorn, Elagast, and Eomer's lieutenant. Laurie Phillips, who's the elf. Reese Lloyd. Lewis McLeod. I have no idea who these people are. But there is a Charles Martinet in there.
What?
You know who Charles Martinet is?
A dwarf. A hobbit. I don't know.
Well, he voices Gimli and Eowyn.
Wait, what? He voices Gimli?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's me, Gimli! I can't. Nope, that doesn't work.
For those of you who don't know, Charles Martinet is the voice of Mario.
Mario.
Yeah. Mario,
I saw
Luigi.
him once, and Chris was devastated.
I felt so betrayed about it.
I saw him at Dragon Con. It was awesome. As he was walking through the hallway, as I was passing him, he said, "It's me!" I was like, ah! I tried to get a picture, but he walked too fast.
Charles Martinet is adorable. I hope he lives forever. He's as adorable as Stan Lee was.
Wait, was there another person I'd recognize?
No, just Ian
just
McKellen, Christopher Lee, and Charles Martinet. There is some footage in the game where Ian McKellen talks about, and they show movie footage from the 3 movies. So you have Billy Boyd, Orlando Bloom, Kate Blanchett, Sean Astin, Sean Bean, Viggo Mortensen, but they're just like their voices are ripped from the movie with the scenes or whatever they're showing. So that's the only way that you would have like famous, recognizable people other than those 3. The rest, not so much. So let's go ahead and get back into what I have written here. So that was the sound design. So let's go ahead and get into the gameplay. Gameplay is going to take a little bit of time because it's a lot of shit.
I would just like to throw in that I typed this up on the way back from Georgia today as he dictated to me. And dear God, I never expected him to have this much to say.
Well, I always have a lot to say about everything. I just try to condense it. But this, I try to condense it as much as possible. And holy shit, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the gameplay. The gameplay, it's a fun RPG. So the gameplay breaks down into walking down corridors and finding MacGuffins and activating switches. During your walk through those corridors, you will be prompted by enemies that will attack you. So you will have to fight them. You'll know you're getting close to being attacked by a symbol on the top left corner of the TV that will either show you Sauron's eye growing in power or the Tree of Gondor growing in visibility. Once either of these is fully visible, the fight will start.
I do have a question.
No matter where you are.
What does the Tree of Gondor have to do with enemies coming?
I have no fucking idea.
That doesn't make any sense.
And the thing is
you think that there are people coming to help you with that.
Yeah, the thing is that the first time that you see it, the enemies that show up for the Tree of Gondor are those humans that are sided with Sauron. Mm-hmm. And when the eye shows up, it's usually orcs or goblins or Uruk-hai.
So we have like a dark enemy or a human enemy.
But then you go into Moria, and both of them are being used, and they are for the same type of enemy.
That's fun.
After Moria, it's still the same shit.
That's fun.
You'd
think they'd show like a Balrog glowing or something.
You get to fight the Balrog, but that's yeah, it's interesting.
That's a lot.
It's interesting what they do with this game, the liberties they take. So when the fights start, it goes into a turn-based system where whoever has the highest speed will attack first. Your party, which consists of 3 members, have the option to do a normal attack, a special attack, a magic attack, or use their personal ability, or use items, or skip their turn. Depending on your stats, these attacks will either hit or fail, and it will determine how much damage is done. Once you finish the fight, every character in your party gains experience, with which they level up. Even if they're out of the party, they're not fighting, they do get experience points, so that's at least good. After each level up, you get 2 stat points to boost your stats. Sometimes you will have a 4th character join you in your party, like Gandalf or Haldir's elves. The cool thing is that some of the special attacks can break enemies' armors, cripple their speed so they don't attack as often, or cause debuffs, like constant damage drain to enemies. This helps in tough fights like when you're fighting 2 trolls at the same time. You can also find armor pieces in the world that you can equip to your characters. These armor pieces increase your stats. The cool thing about these armor pieces is that they are from the first age all the way up to the 3rd age, so they're all cosmetically different. And they do provide cosmetic changes to your characters. I think one of the coolest ones that I saw was the dwarf's family armor that you find in Moria. You get to equip it to the dwarf Hadhod, or however the fuck you say his name. And that armor is very different from the ones that he was previously wearing. It also, I like that these pieces of armor and these items have a bit of lore attached to them.
I love lore.
Yeah. So you would get like little bits and pieces of, this armor piece was created by this person in this age and they wore it for this. So that's kind of cool. So speaking of the lore and the story in the game, you get these thing called epic scenes where Sir Ian McKellen, as Gandalf, will talk about the stuff related to your quest in that moment. For example, one of those epic scenes is where he is talking to Hadhod indirectly, lamenting the death of the dwarves in Moria, but also commending them for their resilience, especially since he has gotten to see firsthand how resilient they can be in his friend Gimli.
It's me, Gimli.
So, just like this epic scene, there are many more that pop up constantly throughout the game. So, as soon as you meet somebody or something that's very Lord of the Ringy, you'll get one of these special scenes, like seeing Eomer and his Rohirrim.
Rohirrim.
Eomer and his Rohirrim. You will get like a 2-minute video of Gandalf just talking about, how cool Eomer is.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's
Eomer is pretty badass, and I think he gets gypped in the movies. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, it's Karl Urban. Karl Urban is pretty fucking cool in everything he does.
Right?
Yeah. So let's go into the problems. I have a
This is
lot.
also a very lengthy section, even lengthier than gameplay.
Yeah, so I have a lot of problems with this game. A whole shit ton. I actually had a big issue trying to figure out where to start here
Oh, God.
because I don't know what to complain about first, but I managed to do it. So let's go. Let's start off with the map. You only have a small map in the corner of the screen, which you can zoom in and out of, but not enough to see the entire map. There are no options in the pause menu to see the entire map either. Because of that, in the areas where they throw you into a large area with a bunch of little maze like hallways, sometimes you end up walking in circles because they do not point where you need to go precisely. They do put a point in a certain direction of where you need to go, but because it's maze like, you don't directly get to go to that area. Sometimes you need to exit the entire area to be able to find the way to that direction point. Sorry, that snuck up on me a little bit. Now, this problem would have been solved if they would have given you the issue to be able to see the map, because honestly, it's so stupid and simple that I don't know what the hell happened. So, my next complaint is that the level scaling in the game is atrocious. During the first 3 hours, all the way up till you get out of Moria and find the Rohirrim to get back to Helm's Deep, the enemies are at a comfortable level. After you find all the Rohirrim and you start walking towards Helm's Deep, the enemies double in strength. So, what should be a simple fight turns into a slog. Fighting these overpowered enemies sometimes you know, just feels plain fucking unfair. Sometimes you get attacked by a pair of Urukai, an orc, and a goblin, and it's harder to kill the goblin than anything else because he will avoid all your attacks. He will constantly heal himself. He will soak up all the damage that you deal. And it's just plain ridiculous. You kill the Urukai with 2 strikes, but not the goblin. It is insanity. This particular issue is what led me to stop playing the game. And also the fact that the enemy encounter rate is downright infernal. Sometimes you will have both the Tree of Gondor and the Eye of Sauron racing to see who will spawn the enemies next. Sometimes you will beat one of them. Let's say the Eye of Sauron finished filling up first. You kill all those enemies. As soon as you take another step, the Tree of Gondor had failed instead of resetting. So you get 2 fights one after the other. You start walking, same bullshit happens again. And that while the fights are really cool to see and to take part in, they are very, very slow. Especially when the enemies attack. They have long animations, slow movement, and because the level scaling is so terrible, they have higher speeds than you, so they can attack constantly. Sometimes you will be attacked 3 to 4 times before you can actually attack one of them, and that doesn't even guarantee that you're going to get a hit in. I would have loved to have seen a button to speed up the animations or the option to just turn them off entirely so that I could just skip the attack animation so that I could just keep playing and, beat them all with just button presses. Even if I don't see any animations, that would have kept me going. Another thing that I hate is that sometimes you will get cutscenes where the characters are interacting with each other, and while they're not as lovable as the Fellowship, they are kind of endearing. But sometimes they will say something along the lines of, "Oh, I hear an enemy down the hall," and the cutscene will just end abruptly and throw you straight into the fight. Like, how does hearing an enemy down the hall equal to "I'm in a fucking fight right now"?
It doesn't.
And it's ridiculous because it's not just the group that you're playing as, but if you have like a fourth party member, like a guest party member, like Gandalf or an elf, they'll do the same shit, and you'll start another fight immediately. And once the fight is over, they don't even acknowledge that they were in a fight. Just keep playing the game.
You're shitting me.
Yeah. So, major character like Gandalf joins you, helps you kill all these bad guys, and that's it. Nobody acknowledges anything. The last thing that I hate is that I would gain so much experience from the fight that every other fight would end with a level up, which just meant that you would have to pause the game, distribute the points, which really doesn't make sense at all to me since the level scaling is so atrocious, because it feels like you were always growing, but you could never keep up, it got to the point where I only put my stat points into my attack and my speed so that I could actually attack faster and hit harder. And the speed actually controls your rate, your percentage rate of actually landing the attacks. So there was really no sense into putting any points in anything else because your defense was basically controlled by the stuff that you equipped onto your character. So it's just bad level scaling. Uh, and actually, the last thing that I really hated about this game is that you would have to use your special abilities a certain number of times before you could get a new one in that specific ability section. So if you had your magics, you would have to use your magics a certain amount of times, or your special sword attacks a certain amount of times, stuff like that. And it was annoying because these special abilities had kind of like a long wind up. And then when they would release the attack, it would do a little bit of damage when your regular attack would do so much more damage than your special abilities. This was an obnoxious time sink, and I hated having to try to unlock new abilities. I'm ashamed that it took me till the second disc to actually figure it out. Oh, and yeah, this game has 2 discs on GameCube, which for an RPG this slow, it's kind of ridiculous. I was at, what, 9 hours, and at 9 hours it told me change the disc.
That's ridiculous.
Isn't it supposed to be a 35-hour game? Or was I going just way too fast? The world will never know. So as bad as this game sounds, it actually did have a bunch of cool shit that I actually really liked. Let's start off with the cosmetic changes. Whenever you would equip new armor pieces, the cosmetics would change. Their armor pieces would change individually. Whether it was boots, gloves, shoulder pads, whatever, they would change based on what you equipped. In most RPGs, whenever you acquire new armor pieces and you equip them, you just get the stat boosts. In this game, you actually get the stat boosts plus the change. And the changes look like they would fit right into place in the Lord of the Rings universe. So the Gondorian armors look like what you would see the Gondor soldiers using. The ranger, the elf, the dwarf.
Looks like Aragorn.
Yeah,
Strider.
It actually looked like Aragorn did in the first movie. So, I actually like how deep the combat system was. It had many layers, which after playing for a while, you would get to the point where you would figure out what the best team would be for your playstyle and what abilities would be the best for you to finish the fights quicker. I like how it gave you a role to play in helping the Fellowship, which it was really cool. You're chasing after originally Boromir to help the Fellowship take the ring to Mordor. But then it derails from there, just like the Fellowship derailed in the movies. Even though the game is not canon, the idea of playing as a group who had a hand in saving Middle-earth is very interesting, to the point where I was very excited to play this game when I started reading up on it, at the beginning of Middle-earth March. Like in Return of the King, Redwood Studios did put a lot of effort into making this a game for fans, which really shows in the small details of the game. This game feels like a Japanese RPG in many ways, and having it done by a studio that doesn't do this at all was very impressive. I also like that there was a separate campaign with separate characters and chapters where you could play as Sauron's forces trying to take over Middle-earth. There is a lot of cool ideas, a lot of really good, creative choices and decisions in this game, but unfortunately, the execution just wasn't 100% there. And overall, this game just had me torn. I really loved a lot of the things the game did, like I said, but I also really, really hate a lot of the things that the game did. If I would have played this back when it came out in 2004, I probably would have beaten this game a few times. I probably would have loved the shit out of it. But right now, it just feels dated, sometimes broken, but it has a charm and identity that's unique to it, that with enough time of polish would have actually have made this game amazing.
You're too experienced now. You've gained too many experience points. You're beyond the levels of this game.
I know. Unfortunately, because this game didn't receive that polish and that love that it actually needed to be the amazing game it could have been, this game is a 2.5 stars.
I think that's like the lowest rated game you've had.
And
That's bad.
I feel terrible because this game had so much potential and so many good things, but the bad things just needed to be ironed out. If they would have, this game would have been amazing. I mean, right now you're getting RPGs that are doing things that this game did before. In 2004, like a separate fucking campaign for the bad guys. Mario did it like 2 years ago. This game did it in 2004.
That's crazy.
I don't know who has the license for the Lord of the Rings games. I think it's WB. I would actually love an RPG from a Lord of the Rings RPG in this vein. Make it turn-based. I would love it turn-based. Just give me those few things. Make it so that I can speed it up. A big map. Balance out the level scaling and the enemy encounter rates. And it would be amazing. Make it a what-if story. What if there was another fellowship trying to help the fellowship? Fuck, it was awesome. Like I said, I was really excited, but it fucked me up. You know what else fucked us up?
What?
This week's garbage. Are you ready?
Oh my god. No, I'm not ready. I don't ever want to think about it again.
Well, too bad, because this is Give Me the Garbage.
This week's restaurant is Metro Diner Express in East Orlando. This Metro Diner Express, we are assuming, is part of the larger Metro Diner chain because my hubby here told me I was crazy, but this location does in fact say it is a Metro Diner Express. What the difference is, I have no fucking clue. We don't care. We thought a fun addition to Fried Chicken Month would be chicken and waffles, because who doesn't love chicken and waffles? I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't really like chicken and waffles, but it was still my suggestion. That makes sense, right?
Somewhat.
Oh, God. We've only eaten at this location once before, and while it didn't wow us, it was pretty alright, if incredibly bland. So the food. We both ordered the chicken and waffles that come with Metro Diner's signature strawberry butter and spicy honey sauce shit. Chris wanted a little something extra and also ordered a side of home fries. Oh my god, this meal rivaled that of Twisted Root in terms of how disappointing it was.
Terrible.
I want my money back. This food is trash, and you will never see us darken the doors of a Metro Diner again.
It was terrible. This was one of the worst meals I've ever had.
We were devastated. Our first bites of fried chicken were decent, but then we kept eating. Their chicken and waffles is served with a fucking half chicken, so we had a whole fucking chicken.
That is not a problem for me, but
It's a problem for me.
It's
too much. We're obese. We don't need a whole chicken.
You might not, but I do.
Oh, hush. Second, we left almost the whole fucking chicken on the table.
Yeah.
Because it was trash.
Mm-hmm.
The breading may have appeared to be nicely fried on the outside, but once you ripped it open, the underside of that breading was cakey and gooey because it wasn't cooked long enough. The chicken was pink, and contrary to red meat beliefs, you don't want to serve pink chicken.
So, it looked to me like the whole chicken was cooked unevenly or for weird
because it was
times.
Like rubbery just underneath the skin, but then you got deeper and it was
It looked to me
done.
like the fryer was hot as fuck, and they took this chicken cold and threw it in the fryer cold, one piece at a time, 3 minutes apart each one, because the drumsticks were perfect. One of my breasts was perfect. The wing and the other breast
None of mine was good.
was raw.
None of it.
It was super fucking salty.
It was the saltiest. It was, you know how McDonald's used to salt their French fries and how it would give you a heart attack with how much salt was on it? That's what this chicken tasted like. Times 4.
They took all that salt from McDonald's and put it in this chicken.
Yeah, McDonald's donated all of their salt to Metro Diner Express.
Last time we went to Metro Diner, I think I had the Eggs Benedict, and they tasted like nothing. They sucked the flavor of eggs out of the eggs.
I had biscuits and sausage gravy, and I'd rather go to Cracker Barrel. It's cheaper for one, and more flavorful.
I'd rather go to Hardee's. I would rather go to McDonald's to get...
that's saying something.
Fucking biscuits and gravy.
I would rather go to McDonald's. I had a mimosa last time, too, and it was...
Yeah. So let's get a little bit more into it. So the waffles were okay.
Well, okay, so they had like a nice light and airy texture with just like a tiny bit of crunch where you want the crunch, like on those edges. But it didn't make up for anything else.
So I was very excited because, chicken and waffles is fucking fried chicken and waffles. Who doesn't like chicken and waffles?
Me.
You're a weirdo.
But I suggested it.
I know, which surprised me.
I knew it would make you happy.
I know. So
and fried chicken.
I was okay. The leg is good. I had a little bit of the butter.
I had a wing that didn't have any meat on it.
I had a wing that was raw. It was rubbery shit. It was terrible. And I took a little bit of that fucking butter and I put it on
strawberry butter.
Yeah, I put it on a waffle. I took a bite out of it. And something was off immediately. I could feel a long, thick coat of salt.
Are you sure?
And
on top of
that salt, I tasted strawberry. I was like, okay, maybe I have too much chicken in my mouth. I rinsed my mouth out with water. I took another bite. That butter is terrible. So you know how people like to eat food with layers of flavor, right? And depth of flavor. This was definitely full of layers of flavor. It was a thick layer of salted butter with strawberry flavoring and dried strawberries in it. And the dried strawberries soaked up the oils and the fat from the butter, so they were extra fucking disgusting.
Now this is where we disagree a little bit.
It was fucking terrible.
I thought the strawberry butter was all right. I got a nice little chunk of strawberry that I actually found kind of tasty. But like I was so upset. I think I was more upset than he was because I was upset with the entire experience.
You know what really upset me about that butter is that there was a defining layer of separation between the strawberries and the butter that were mixed together.
Maybe I slathered so much syrup on mine that it
terrible.
Just masked it. I don't know.
So tell me about that fucking spicy honey shit that they had.
So yeah, they give you this, thank God, it's in a little container. This little container of spicy honey shit. It's honey with spice in it. I don't know what the spice is.
It tastes like literally pancake syrup with Frank's Red Hot in it.
Yeah. It's some of the nastiest shit I've ever tasted in my life. Thank God, like I said, they give it to you in a little plastic solo cup on the side because I would have pulled a big fat Karen and sent my food back if it had been all over that fucking chicken. I should have pulled a Karen because the whole experience was just awful, but
so
I don't like to be that person.
You know how I like to talk about the perfect bite when it's something that is amazing?
The perfect terrible bite?
This is the worst bite of all time. This bite was terrible. So I took some of the skin off the chicken, because it was kind of crunchy. And I put it on top of the strawberry waffle, and I took a bite. It tasted like I was eating mucus on top of a crunchy waffle.
Oh, God.
It was the worst bite I have ever had in my entire life because the whole fucking skin, the batter on the skin, was still raw.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was so ooey gooey underneath it. It looked crispy, but it wasn't.
And
it was very deceptive.
My raw piece of chicken, I took the skin off because it was disgusting. And then
we have pictures.
So it has two layers. It has a muscle layer on top and then a muscle layer underneath. That muscle layer on top was cooked perfectly, but it had no flavor. The layer underneath, once I pulled it off the bone, was entirely pink. How the fuck do you cook chicken so unevenly? I don't care if you have to churn it out quickly. Take your fucking time with it. People will wait if it means that they will eat perfectly good.
Yeah, because I was concerned that
we ordered and immediately it came out.
Yeah, they have it set up differently now than they did the last time we went, I guess because of the pandemic. So you go in and you order at the counter at the front. I panic ordered for one. That never works out in my favor. But they give you a table number. You go sit down. They immediately brought us our food.
Yeah.
Immediately.
No, we didn't have to wait.
I was concerned. But that gives me into the service.
Are you going to talk about the fries first?
Oh, we got to talk about the fries.
So the potatoes look like somebody had burnt them in a deep fryer, taken them out, put them in a fridge, put them in a microwave to reheat them. And when they took them into the air fryer, the deep fryer, they didn't cook them all the way through. So it tasted like a burnt raw potato.
It tastes like, imagine you're going to the grocery store, you go into Walmart, you buy yourself one little solitary potato, you take it home, you don't wash it, you pop it in the microwave, just enough to get it hot and kind of soft. That's exactly what these home fries tasted like.
Except burnt.
Yeah, except burnt. You put it in the microwave a little bit too long.
This whole place.
He dumped half of the fucking salt shaker onto these home fries, and they still didn't taste like anything but microwaved potato.
And you know what's the most disappointing part about this whole thing? I was dreaming about this fucking chicken and waffles, and everybody that had talked to me about Karradyne's chicken and waffles said, oh, it's so good.
They're trash.
It's a fucking ball of salt with
trash.
Okay waffles.
Trash.
Those waffles, they were okay, but
I wouldn't even go back for just waffles by themselves.
Everything else around it was just terrible. I mean, the eggs Benedict that I had that one time, that is disappointing. How do you take the egg flavor out of eggs? Fresh eggs.
But the last time we ate there was also before the pandemic started, so God only knows exactly how long it was, how long it's been. It's been more than a year since we last ate there.
Yeah, it has.
But beyond the food, like, I don't even know. We received no service at all beyond dumping our food at the table. You're not able to just go serve yourself your own refill. But did anyone come by to offer one? No, you're giving me a whole fucking salty half chicken and don't think I need a refill on my water? Fuck you.
I tweeted at Karradyne what happened.
I want my money back.
As we left. We didn't hear anything back from them. We did see that they are active online because it was what's it called? Non-franchise food place day or whatever the fuck it's called a couple of days ago. And somebody said, oh, Karradyne is my favorite non-franchise. And then I read their bio and they're like, oh, over 48 franchises. Like, how the fuck are you not a franchise with 48 franchises? In fact, how do you even have 48 operating franchises?
When you don't know how to cook.
You're terrible. Anyways, before I get too angry, because I can feel it bubbling inside because of how mediocre this place was. Garbage.
1000% garbage.
Karradyne, you are garbage. Do fucking better. So, let's get into the housekeeping, and that'll finish it off for this week. A little bit of a shorter episode, but I had so much shit to talk about.
Goodbye, Frodo!
I had so much shit to talk about that I didn't want to, pile on. And it's actually almost 10 p.m. and I have to edit this and get it out so that you guys can listen to it in the morning. Yay!
Goodbye, Gandalf.
Oh, 10 of you listeners.
Aragorn. Goodbye, Legolas. Goodbye, Gimli. Goodbye, Boromir. Goodbye, Sam, Merry Pippin.
And good riddance.
Oh!
So, let's go ahead and get into housekeeping. First off, go sign up to our Patreon. It's $2 a month, gets you episodes, gets you votes into what we discuss. End of April, we're doing the book that Karradyne had win and the game that I had win.
I've already heard that the book is trash, so
that's going to be a fun
hyped
episode.
For that.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at anovelconsole and Facebook at facebook.com/anovelconsole. Don't forget to tell your friends that they can find the podcast on most major podcast streaming platforms and that they can also listen on YouTube by searching for A Novel Console. Don't forget to tell them to subscribe, like, and comment, which we would really like if they did. That would make our day, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Better than Metro Liner.
Yep.
You should also leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts so that more people can find us. You can also email us at anovelconsole@gmail.com. We will read your email on the show. We'll talk about whatever you want. Hey, if you've eaten at Metro Diner and you think it's better than what we described
Tell
or
us
our experience,
why.
tell us. What did you enjoy? What was so good? Because I actually think we had the fruit cup that one time we went.
What?
And the fruit was tasteless. How do you do that?
I don't have any recollection of that.
And our art was done by Metamorphic on Instagram. You can find her link in the show notes. And you can find everything else in the show notes. And with that, we end Middle Earth March. It has been fun.
I'm so sad.
But I'm ready to move on. Oh, and that also puts an end to Chicken Search because
we ain't doing any more missions because I'm fucking sick of fried chicken. We ate it for dinner again. That's fine. But,
we couldn't find the perfect chicken, and finding it has been a mission.
Wait,
but
who came the closest?
Banchan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Banchan's basically perfect.
Yeah, Banchan.
It's just so unique that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to do Jamaican jerk chicken and stuff, but
We're chickened out.
yeah, we're done for now. We'll pick it up eventually later, and I don't know, maybe whatever contenders we find that are worth it, we'll add them on. So, anything else you want to say before we end the show?
I'll miss being a Lord of the Rings content podcast.
Yeah, that's 4 episodes of Lord of the Rings.
That's all I think about
Content.
anymore.
Well, too bad. Gotta change that mindset. So, ready to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.